Hey everybody, how you doing tonight? It's Mike Lopez here from IncrediCon and IncrediChat. Once again, before we get started, I want to thank everybody who came out to our live event this past Saturday up in Wappingers Falls. We had a great turnout, and we'll be ready to come back in 2021 with more great IncrediCons. So on to tonight's IncrediChat. We have a wonderful, wonderful filmmaker tonight. He's got an amazing background. He's an animator at DreamWorks, and we're going to talk a little bit about that and some great films like Boss Baby, and he worked on Madagascar and the Trolls World Tour movie. But the most important thing that we're going to want to talk about tonight is this wonderful film that some of you may have seen online. It's called Frank and Emmett. And we're going to welcome him right now, and I'm going to try it again. Hopefully I don't get it wrong. We're going to welcome Carlos Puertolas. Oh no, I messed it up.
It's good, man. You were so close.
Puertolas.
Yes, there he goes.
Carlos Puertolas. Carlos, welcome to now. We already got some people joining us. Hello, Joe Ryan.
Thank you.
So yeah, Carlos, I mean, you have an amazing background, and once again, thank you for joining us here tonight on IncrediChat. So we're gonna get to that little guy that's behind you in a moment, but I know some people are really excited about your background, animation. Let's talk about that. How did you get started in animation? How did you get started as an artist?
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, I think the film and my background have somehow connections, you know, not necessarily one-to-one, but definitely inspiration that kind of landed on the film as well, on Frank and Emmett's film. So yeah, in my case, I was just, you know, not great at school, you know. I mean, I had a little bit of a harder time on the regular school system, and you know, I just have a lot of problems concentrating, and I was very good at concentrating on stuff that I liked and that I enjoy, but I have a harder time maybe concentrating on things that I didn't. So it was kind of a rough time for me in terms of school. But early on, my mom kind of noticed that I had a very good interest on like drawing and writing little songs or stories, you know. So she kind of saw that and thought, well, she found an animation school that was kind of like a little bit of a different school that also teaches traditional animation. And so when I was pretty young, I was probably 16, I started to go to that school. And I just kind of really enjoyed doing that. And honestly, the interesting thing about it is that my mom wasn't necessarily thinking that's going to be my career. You know, it was more of her trying to, and my dad too, them trying to find kind of like, oh, maybe this is something that he will enjoy and he will find his path that way, you know. But not necessarily thinking that was going to be, again, a career, because back then, we're talking about a really long time ago, back then that wasn't, you know, it wasn't a profession, you know. It was more of a kind of cool thing to do, or things that somebody likes to do. But it turned out I did pretty well, and at the end of 3 years of that school, and I learned a lot of animation. And at that time, CG animation was something that was starting to appear with Toy Story and Jurassic Park, and all of these movies were coming out. So I learned a lot of traditional animation, but I wasn't that good at it because it's such a hard craft, you know. Like, you have to be very good at drawing, and I was decent at drawing, but I wasn't amazing like other people are, you know. And I thought CG was interesting because I could apply a lot of those principles, but in the computer, which I was also pretty good at. You know, I like technology and computers, and so I was very lucky that happened on the right timing, and I started doing a lot of exercises, animation exercises in 3D, and then it became something that I really enjoyed. And then right after, honestly, when I finished those 3 years, when I was 18, 19, I moved to the UK from Spain. All of this, by the way, is in Spain. I'm originally from Spain.
Wow.
So then I moved to the UK by myself to work as an animator. And then from there, I spent a number of years over there working on video games. But my goal was always like, I just wanted to work on anime and features, you know, and that was something that was a goal of mine. So after working a few years in animation in the UK and kind of learning the hard way to speak English and to, you know, by socializing, because my English level was pretty low, and I kind of got better at it, and then I decided to kind of quit my job and work on a little short film, an animated short film that I made. It was called Bath Time, and I did that, and I sent it to all the companies here. And it took a while. I thought they probably just never saw it, or they ignored it, or it wasn't good enough. But eventually, I got an answer back from DreamWorks, and they said, "Hey, we really like the film you did, and we want to try to bring you over and to work on some of the features that we're working on." And it was just like that's all I wanted. So then I was very lucky to come over here with a job already working at DreamWorks, and I became an animator, and that was like that was like 17 years ago. Which,
wow.
I mean, yeah.
Now,
so,
I'm just curious, and I mean, I'm an animation fan as well. What are some of the differences? Like, so you were in Spain, UK. What are some of the differences in animation, whether it be like the style, the storytelling that you find over in European, as opposed to what we have over here in the United States?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's like in film, right? I think in the European film, it's always like it's a little more edgier, right? I feel sometimes they sometimes try riskier things, riskier subjects. You know, I think that just happens to any film, animated or not. In Europe, you kind of see that trend. They try doing things that are a little different. Also, because in a way, I feel like it's because there's not as much money like involved, right? I think the moment that you have so much money involved on some of these projects like that happen in the US, then things tend to be a bit more. Everybody have to like it. Let's put it that way, right? So things are a little less edgier. You don't touch certain subjects. But over there, because I felt like there was never as much money on the film industry as there is here, then they can play with other thoughts, and they can play with riskier concepts and ideas. And I think that's what I see a little bit of the difference in the two areas. And everything changes, you know. And I think but there's like also movies that are very American made there as well, and the other way around, movies that are very like European like over here. But I feel like the main difference, at least that I noticed, is that. But in the animation department, it's like there's definitely in Europe there's a lot of amazing artists and 2D animators that come from over there. So in that way, it's kind of the same. There's a lot of talented people everywhere.
Yeah, because I mean, like, you really look at it, and you know, just animation in general, like, you know, depending on the different parts of the world you are, there's definitely like the different style. Like, I mean, it's certainly, you know, and it's big over here too. It's big around the world. Like, you look at the Asian animation, like anime, like that is huge. And again, it's a much different story, a different kind of style, you know, and just a look to it, you know, and you know, so everybody brings, I guess, a little bit of the their cultures into it, as they go forward for it.
And with the world obviously being more and more connected, and everybody's connected, then you start seeing a lot of influences everywhere, right? So you see influence of anime in productions here than in the US, and you see influence from the US in Europe. You know, it's like it goes all over, which is kind of great. You create a very diverse movies, which is what we want. Different stories, different. You know, I think that's pretty great.
Oh, and I mean, certainly movie storytelling, and certainly animation. I mean, it really makes our world all the smaller, you know, and it brings a way of connecting it through all these characters. Like you mentioned, DreamWorks, like where we worked, and we'll talk more about those. But those characters are world renowned. There. And you know, and just like any animated character, people know, they connect with, and they follow those characters.
Which is kind of like, again, it connects a little bit with the story, you know, that on Frank and Emmett, because there's a connection that you build, and I think that's with anybody that works with characters, right? Like that anybody that helps creating a character that then becomes its own thing, and it's alive for the audience, and it's out there in the world. You do build a connection with that character, you know. You feel like you know this character, and I think that eventually, when you really know what the character, who he is, and it becomes kind of a part of you, and you obviously become a part of that character. And I think that with puppeteers is very obvious, you know. But it happens with everybody, right? It happens to animators, it happens to actors that perform a character, and they kind of become the character, and also kind of learn about this character and become like almost friends with this character that they're playing, you know. And,
Yeah.
and the story of the film also touches on that idea.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about Frank and Emmett. And I just want to, if for folks at home, if you don't know about Frank and Emmett yet, go down and follow the Instagram page, which you see kind of scrolling on the bottom there, Instagram.com, Frank Emmett Film. And that's where Carlos has all the updates for the movie and stuff about that. But there's a great little video that's on the website for the crowd funding thing that you guys did for it, telling the story, and you started going about this. So where did the inspiration for this film of Frank and Emmett come from?
Yeah, so I was, you know, the inspiration from it came from going to the Jim Henson exhibition that was here in LA, and they have this kind of like super nice place where you have a lot of the original Muppets, and they have a very great setup there that you can walk around and really immerse yourself into the world of Jim Henson and the Muppets and anything that they have worked on. So we went there. Funny enough, we went to visit that museum with the crew from Trolls World Tour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, early on, we always find things to do, right? Like early on in the movie, we thought, okay, what would be a great thing to do with the whole animation team, which is probably like 30 people, 30 animators. What would be a great thing to do that would be inspiring, and not necessarily, it doesn't have to be related to the movie, just something that is inspiring. And then we thought, oh man, this would be perfect, because obviously animators love puppets too, and the Muppets obviously. So we went over there. We were walking around, and it was obviously very inspiring to see the connection they build with these characters and this relationship that happens and how real the characters become. So with that, I was watching a little clip that was playing there on a little video. Mm-hmm. And it was basically, I think it was Jim Henson and Frank Oz, and it was Bear and Kermit, and I think they were just having a little conversation, and it was improvised, and it was a conversation in the middle of I think it was a camera test or something in the middle of somewhere here in LA. And
the stuff where they're out like in the farm and doing all that stuff.
Yes, the farm clip. So which I saw in the past, but it never hit me as hard, because over there I was more inspired, you know, surrounded by the things.
Yeah.
So, and on that clip, as you know, there is this moment where Kermit they have this existential moment there that Fuzzy the Bear is Kermit tells him that something like, hey, well, you know, you're not a real bear, right? And there's that moment that they kind of play back and forth. There's a very short moment that happens there, and but I couldn't forget about that moment. There was something, and I think that's been. The moment. Oh, for a second I heard myself, but yeah, there been obviously the puppets and the Muppets, they explore that idea a lot as well, right? So, yeah. But that was something that got stuck in my mind, like, oh yeah, that's such a great moment, the realization of a puppet, of like it's not a real thing, you are made up. So that was the inspiration for this film, and then as I kind of got deeper into it, I started to figure out ideas of like, well, when do they find out they are actually a manufactured thing? And I started to think about that, and I started to think about who will be the best person to tell the puppet that that's the case, you know. And obviously it was very obvious that it will be the puppeteer telling the puppet that that's the case. And that kind of was what kind of started this whole thing, this whole idea. And then as I dive deeper, then obviously I started to find the connections with my own background as an animator, as an artist, and then it just became very interesting, and I started it just kind of wrote itself. The main idea wrote itself. Mm-hmm. And it just in essence it is an existential conversation between an artist and his creation, or his passion, or the thing that became so important in his life that made his life make sense, you know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. and you know, like, that's a good point. Like, and you watch the Muppets, and like I'm not so much like the other Sesame Street characters, but like Kermit and Fozzie, like they have been very tongue in cheek, especially early on, realizing that they are puppets. Like there's clips of them saying like, "Who are those guys underneath us?" We just we don't talk about those guys, you know. They're there, they know, you know. And even like a few of the people who I know who are puppeteers, like they, you know, they pilot the character that they have, you know. They're their special helper, you know. Because I mean, and as you know, obviously with Emmett there, once the puppeteer puts the character on their hand, that puppeteer is gone. And
even if they're there, even if they're right here, there's just like disappear.
Yeah, all focus, like right next to you, all focus on the puppet, 100%. And you know, and that is like a really special connection. And you know, and you and I were talking about this beforehand. You know, there is that connection because these puppets are real, tangible things that you can hug. You were talking about the child that's in your film. You know, like a child can come and hug a puppet, you know, or you know, just have a conversation. So there is such a great power and, you know, opportunity for storytelling and just connection that comes from something like that. We do have a question here from the audience for you. And it's from Joe. He says he's a graduate of a School of Cartoon and Graphic Art, and he wants to get a job in animation. What's the best advice that you could give him for gearing a portfolio for a career in animation?
I mean, honestly, like I think this is one of these careers that you don't need to have a long, you know, honestly, you don't need to have a long, you don't have to have a lot on your resume, right? Like if you do, it's great, but what really shows is the work, right? If you have the work, and in the case of an animator, if you have a demo reel that you see and you see characters that are alive, that have great acting choices, that you can tell this person knows how to make this character alive, that's all that matters, you know. So in a way that is freeing, right? Because it doesn't, you know, I think you can learn to be an animator in a lot of ways. You can go to school and learn to be an animator. You can be an animator by watching a lot of stuff and practicing. You know, you can do it a lot of ways. But at the end, what matters is just like if you have that work that you can put in front of somebody and they can see these characters and feel like they're alive and feel like they exist, then most likely you are going to get a job on that industry. And I'm not saying it's easy, you know, it's obviously it takes a lot of time, a lot of work, like anything, like any profession really. But the good thing about it is that if you have the work and if you put it together, people will hire you and people will work with you, you know. I mean, and I've seen that. I mean, I've seen that with myself, you know. I didn't have a lot of job experience. I didn't have, but what they saw, they really liked, and they saw that I have a sense to make characters be alive, and then they give me an opportunity. So.
Well, let me ask you this question to kind of build on that too. And this is in regards to animation. I mean, and I guess any kind of art, like, so obviously you've done a lot of work with DreamWorks. So when they're looking at portfolios, are they looking at people who can capture the essence of the Trolls or of Shrek or the Madagascar animals like that? Or are they, like you said, looking and just seeing like the fluidity of it and just like your style?
Like, you know, it's interesting. And at a level at DreamWorks, which is a pretty, when you think about animation, it's a high level, right? It's like there's the top studios, and DreamWorks is one of those top studios. So when we look at animators, we're looking at, we're almost looking at people that don't have to worry anymore about the technicalities, you know. So so in a way, like the computer doesn't exist anymore, and all that we're judging is really the performance. So really, it's just like any acting, really. Like what we're judging when we're looking at some of this work is really the performance, and it honestly doesn't matter if the animation is super smooth or not, but we're always concentrating on the performance, how well these characters can act. like when you're judging an actor and looking at the performance and seeing if you will be able to play the character you want to play. So it's very similar at this level. It's very similar. And all the most important thing for us is acting, and at least to me, is like acting is the most important, the most important ingredient, because sometimes we get a little more junior animators that maybe are not as refined in the motion, and you know, maybe the arms don't move perfectly and the head don't move perfectly, but the timing and the acting choices they are delivering are great, and they show that they have a very good understanding on that. To me, that's always very important, because that's what matters. The other stuff, we can kind of work on it with them and kind of make them better at it. But that instinct of the acting choices and that stuff is very valuable. So, which is kind of like with puppets. When you think about puppets, like the way they move, there's never super smooth. Their hands, obviously, they don't control every bone on those arms. They just have a wire that, like, obviously, something that's pushing it around. So it's not going to have a lot of control over the shapes. But if the timing is right and the motion is correct and the gesture is right, then you buy it, and the rest doesn't matter. So to me, definitely, like, acting choices is and just the performance is what really matters.
And I mean, I guess in the world of animation too, that's why you see when you see some of these feature films, like each character is assigned to a different animator, because those animators, and again, much like a puppeteer, bring their style, bring those movements to that character. Because I'm going back to the Muppets, you know, there's a whole collection of Muppet characters. Not any of them move exactly the same. Kermit and Piggy move very differently. Elmo and Kermit move very differently. Like, it's their personality. And same thing, like animation, you watch these movies, each character has their own style, their own animation, their own movement.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is that with puppeteering, they generally is the same person puppeteering. Not always, but generally, right? But in animation, we generally have persons that are responsible for those characters, right? So, like, what we call a lead of the character, or a supervisor of that specific character. But because of how time-consuming it is to do these shots, generally there will be a number of animators that play with the same character. But which is a very kind of cool part about animation, is that there's a very good understanding between all the animators. It's almost like a hive, how do you say, like hive brain, where they all are working together to make this character look the way it looks. But they all are all aware of what's right for the character, and they kind of build this character together, you know, which is interesting. It's a little different than puppeteering, but we always have a lead or a supervisor that kind of makes sure that we're on the right direction. You know, oh, no, this is something that this character would do. But the cool thing about it is you bring all of these different people in, and they come up with new ideas for the character that sometimes are a perfect fit. And you go, yeah, this is great. Let's add these to our little kind of bag of ideas for the character. And it becomes, generally, I feel like I attribute that why some of the animated characters are so, they work so well, and they have such a, they're very dimensional, three-dimensional. They have a lot of stuff that inside them, and I think in a way is because you have maybe 15, 20 animators that are putting their instincts into one character and creating this kind of persona.
I mean, and of course, and they also take whoever the voice actor is too, and the life that brings to, because I guess, and you probably know this very well, is you know, you guys have a direction that you're going with a character, and then the actor records the lines, and you're like, oh, listen how he did that. We need to make this movement like that.
And we always, we that's a big part of it. We have those lines, and we listen to those lines, and we kind of follow those lines, all influenced by their performances. Yeah, so that's another big part of it. We're always waiting in the beginning, early on in productions. We're always waiting to hear who's going to be the character playing, the voice playing the role, because that gives us a lot of information when we move forward.
Yeah, because I'm sure from the original design, you know, and let's take something like Boss Baby, right? like the Boss Baby's voiced by Alec Baldwin, you know, and I'm sure I saw the movie with my son. He loved it. But I mean, there's a lot of Alec Baldwin in that character.
Oh, of course, yeah. And we always have, we can always watch it, them doing and watch the videos when they're performing it, so it can give an inspiration for what we can do in terms of acting choices. But yeah, there's like, we almost grab what they done and then try to make it better or placid or coming up with more things to add to that work that they already have done.
Yeah. Even just like a little nuance on their face that they
yeah.
Let's go back to Frank and Emmett and just talking about inspiration now too. So Emmett's this cute little blue guy behind you. What do you say? He's a monster. He's
I think so. I think it's more on the monster side. Yeah, I mean, we grab inspiration from obviously a lot of the Muppets and the classic.
I was going to ask where maybe which characters inspired him the most.
Actually, like honestly, because my friend Tim Lamb was the character designer who designed the character, and he's a 2D designer that has done amazing work also for DreamWorks. I know him from DreamWorks, and he's amazing. I mean, if you guys check out his Instagram, Tim Lamb. He's pretty Timothy Lamb, I think is his Instagram. It's pretty amazing work that he does. He designed a lot of the characters for Trolls, you know, from the first one to the second movie. So he's amazing. And I asked him about it. I told him about the project and I asked him about designing this character. And what I told him was I give him freedom of whatever he thought, you know. But what I told him was that obviously I wanted this essence of like an older era of the Muppets, and you know. And I more told him about what the character have to go through in order for him to come up with the design. I didn't give him specifics of like, look at these characters or those characters. You know, it was more pretty much like, this is a film that is actually pretty emotional, you know, and that was something that it was important because the story, it's, you know, it touches on things that are relatively like emotional. So so with that said, I told him like, you know, characters that I thought have some of those in a way for me it's a lot on the eyes, right? So I looked at a lot of Gonzo, you know, the old school Gonzo that was always have this kind of very almost sad eyes in a way, and well, like almost melancholic eyes, you know. So the eyes were a little inspired by that. That's why the eyelids are a little more on the, let's say, melancholy or sad or you know, emotional side, because I know that we knew that we had to deliver very emotional kind of moments with the puppet, which is a whole thing. And when you watch the film, you realize, because it worked. A few people tear up as they were watching on the screens as we were filming. So that's a good. That means that something is working. But that's why we went, in terms of the eyes, there was a little more direction of, yes, we need to hit that emotion. So, because we always know that with puppets, like Gonzo is a good example. Sometimes he can perform in a way that is very emotional and you really connect with him. But also with the same eyes, when he's singing and being happy, it also comes across happy. So we lean a little bit towards more of that sadness on the eyes, subtle sadness on the eyes, to be able to deliver the moments that were more emotional. But in terms of the design, like I was saying, it was free. It was like he can do whatever he wants, and he came up with a lot of cool designs, and this one is the one that we like the most. And then we give it to Russ. Russ Walco was the person who built the puppet.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you next. So
so Russ was, we were looking for somebody to help us to build the puppet, and Russ really open to help us because we have a very limited budget, but we were lucky enough that he was open to kind of jump in. And something that really helped us through the project was the script. Sending the script to people was very helpful, because if you come, I mean, we know that there's a lot of productions that don't have a lot of money, and you know, this is just more of a passion project. We paid everybody that worked on the project, but we were limited, you know, because it was all limited budget. So with him, we reach out to him and say, hey, we have this idea. I have this idea. I reach out to him and say, we want to build a puppet, and I send him the script. I send him the design of the puppet that we have, the 2D design. And I think he really liked the story, and he said, just let's do it. So he was very friendly and kind of helped us build it. the interesting thing about it, I mean, when we first saw it, it was like, yeah, this is it. It looks great, and everybody reacted so well to it that it was great. It's a small puppet, you know. That was something that was a little challenging, you know. It just goes. It's a, you know, a small, on the smaller side of a puppet. Really short arms and short legs, but I think that's what adds charm to him as well, and you kind of relate to him instantly. Is because of that size and that. So yeah, we were really lucky to have the help to build him.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, he's a little guy, but he's adorable. Like the minute you see him, like I mean, you mass produce him, he's gonna be the hot Christmas item, because I mean he's definitely, like, again, that kind of character that, you know, people gravitate to.
Yeah, he is charming. The reaction was really good, and for me, it was like I seen this character, and I already have the character on my hands, and then we were starting the process of talking to puppeteers that would actually puppeteer the character, and thanks to a friend that knew Brian Jones, who is the puppeteer that's puppeteering Emmett on the film. He knew him, and he put me in contact with him through a friend, and then I just chatted with Brian a little bit early on about this project that I had, and then we were looking for a puppeteer to work on the project. And you know, obviously the same process happened. Like, he thought, oh, I'm curious, yeah, send me the script. So I sent him the script, and then he was like, all right, I'm in. So we're lucky that the script kind of helped on that way, and he was all in. So him. And then he brought on board Bruce Lanoel, which is like another kind of puppeteer with so much experience. That
he's done a lot of stuff for the Henson Company.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. So that was amazing that the two of them, Bruce was puppeteer right hand, and then Brian was taking control over the rest. And it was really awesome to see them working together in the set. It was just amazing. But with Brian, I mean, we started talking about this for a long time. They helped me tune in the script, and we did a lot of readings, just, you know, be a zoom of the script and tuning the dialogue of the film. And it was great because he was so into the film that he didn't mind connecting and talking about it. And then we found also Paul, who is Paul.
You got an accomplished voice. I'm a big cartoon fan. Obviously, you must be a cartoon fan.
Yeah,
he's an accomplished voice actor. I mean, like, my God.
And again, like, yes, I mean, he's been working on the old school Transformers, like a Pixar movie. I mean, he just done it all. And honestly, I was the what? Sorry,
the voice of our childhood, really.
Yeah, and I was kind of like afraid, because I thought, oh, maybe it's just going to be too big for the role. We did a casting process with a lot of people, but honestly, like, early on, there were some amazing, talented actors there, right? Yeah. But with Paul, there was something about the performance that he brought on some of the casting tapes, that the audition tapes, that were like, it's just like, he just got it. He just got the idea perfectly, and it's just everything, just how he looks and how he really just personifies the character that I envisioned Frank would be on the film.
Yeah.
And then the amazing thing is that he also felt that he felt that connection, and it was similar. I sent, you know, through the audition process, I sent him the full script. Probably on the second round of audition, I said I want to send him the whole script so he can see it. And it was the same reaction. He was like, oh, this is awesome. I want to work on this thing. And I thought, maybe we're too small. Maybe, you know, maybe they're managers and will be like, oh, this is too small of a project. And but we were lucky because Paul really liked it. And he said, I want to work on this thing. And then he said, yes, I want to do this. And it wasn't, like I mentioned before, this was not about the money. This project was not about the money. It was about liking the idea and having a connection with these characters. So he jumped on board, and he was also involved from the beginning in terms of like readings of the script and thoughts, and because he has such an experience. I mean, he has so much experience that any thought that he had, I just took them on board and adjusted the script with their help. Yeah, we're really lucky because, I mean, they're the main characters. We also find Arabella, who is playing Luca, which is the kid on the film, and she's also a great actress, very, very funny and charming, and she was great. But the two main roles, obviously being Frank and Emmett, that was so, like, I was so relieved when we got them. When they were in and they were going to do this, I was like so relieved. Okay, this is going to turn out great the moment they were on board.
Now, let me just ask, prior to the current events that we've been facing since March in the world, what was the process from the beginning, at least up until March?
Yeah.
How long of a process had you been doing this for, from like beginning to? Because I know this is your passion, this is your personal thing, that your story you're telling.
Yeah.
What's been the timeline?
It was you know, I wrote the script relatively quick, and there were a lot of iterations. So the script, I finished the script when things were starting to happen, you know, with the virus and with the,
yeah.
So then after that, it kind of like I have a pass of the script, and then I finished doing, like, I think it was the 42 passes on the script, and it's a 9-page script, so it's a pretty short script. But there was a lot of thought put into it, working with the actors and working like, but through the process we realized, okay, well, there's going to be an issue as we kind of starting to dive in. And I was looking for producers, and I was very lucky to find Brian and Jonathan, my two producers, that I have the luck to meet them through DreamWorks. We work together at DreamWorks, and they connected to the story, and they say, hey, we're going to help you to make this thing. So they both kind of jump on board, and we're starting to think about ideas. Okay, how are we going to make this happen? And as we were moving forward towards making this happen, then the whole virus thing happened, and so not doubts, but it was more like just questions. So how are we going to do this through the virus, and like how are we going to do it through COVID? And they have a great idea of like doing that campaign. They say, you know what? We realized early on that what we thought was going to be a relatively affordable project, because it really is just three characters in one room.
Yeah.
What we thought was going to be a relatively affordable project, it became obvious that was going to be a lot more expensive because of COVID, you know. And we wanted to do everything super safe, and it was all a SAG project, which it was a whole other process, right? Because obviously the talent that we're bringing on board are very professional talent, that they're SAG actors, and we wanted to do it the right way. But that was definitely a big impact in terms of the budget. In the beginning, I was just going to pay for it, right? I was going to say, you know what, I pay for the project. But then the producers, Brian and Jonathan, have a great thought of like, we should do a campaign and get some of these funds to make the film, because it's going to be a lot more expensive through the COVID. And we were very lucky that we put our Seeds and Spark campaign online, and there was a great reaction, and we managed to get a good amount of money in a very short period of time. And that, in a way, is the silver lining that we were talking about earlier, that maybe we wouldn't done this if it wasn't because of COVID. And because of COVID, we kind of thought about different ideas. Well, maybe we should do a campaign. We have the extra time now. Let's make it happen. And we worked on the campaign together, and it was very successful. I mean, within like, I think it was a week, we had what we asked for. And then we went over it, which was obviously very helpful to make the film happen.
Yeah, because I mean, certainly, and this is just talking with other artists who've done films, who've done comics. Like during the whole pandemic, people were home. They were looking for content. They were looking to discover new things, and you know, they were looking for things like Frank and Emmett. You know, because like, oh, this is something new, something that we can get behind. And I mean, it's no surprise to everybody who's watching, and we all know this, is that the arts really have been struggling during this time period. Like, I'm here in New York, Broadway shut down until 2021. You know, production is starting in some element, and same thing with film production. You know, I know for like you guys with animation, it's been you guys have been really thriving, because you guys have a lot of that stuff at home, which is great. We're gonna probably have like a wonderful I mean, not that we haven't had it anyways, but like an amazing renaissance of animation from this time period, I'm sure.
In a way, yes, because everybody was very surprised that we just kept going.
Yeah.
Basically, we just kept going. We started working from home and kept going.
Yeah.
So I think some studios are realizing, hey, animation can just keep going, doesn't matter what. So they're excited about that.
And you don't need to do COVID tests in animation either, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to test your crew and cast, right?
I mean, imagine like even our crew was pretty small, but obviously, yeah, everybody have to be tested. Everybody has to go through the process. Only the right people have to be in the set during the filming. So yeah, it was a whole process that you realize in animation. Everybody's at home doing their thing, and that's it.
Your voices are all in their closets doing their recording. You guys are the cartoon boards and art boards, whatever you got to do, and call it a day, you know. But that's great. So, Frank, so you guys wrapped up production. Whereabouts are you now in like the post production, right? And and where are we headed?
So we finished. But we finished the shooting like 2 weeks ago, right? And we got everything. We got absolutely everything on the tape. I mean, we got it all recorded. I never been on a live action shoot where I felt that we had everything we need to make the film. I always have felt that, oh no, I think we're missing this, or we're missing this shot, or like. But we had everything, which was amazing. And we had all in. Everybody was really excited, which was really great. Like at the end of it was just a weekend, 2 days, so Saturday and Sunday. And at the end of the weekend, everybody was very excited about it because of the people watching as we were filming, and they were like very excited about the project. And then after that, yes, we now it's a little slower. Now we're in editorial, trying to figure out the editing side of things. And eventually, you know, when we have an edit, we'll start moving towards just polishing the edit and putting the music together, because there's a large component of the film that is a musical, you know, section to it. The way the film, without giving away too much, by the way the film starts and the way the film ends is with a song. So so that part is that when we were really grateful to find Tony Morales is the guy, and just to mention some of the people that did the music, we have Kyler is an amazing music writer and she helped us write the songs for the film, and then we have Tony Morales, which is going to take kind of like more of the instrumental section of inside the film. So the two of them working together on the musical side of the film has been amazing. The interesting thing is we needed to create this song before the shooting, because we needed Emmett to sing the song.
Gotcha.
So the song needed to be done before then. So the song was already done by the time of the shooting, and that was kind of exciting to hear the song and be inspired by it. In fact, one of the days we started with one of the shots that was playing that song, and that was actually the moment where a lot of people got very emotional with the song. And then with that song played by them, sing by Emmett, it felt like everybody got into this exciting mood of like, oh, this is great after that song. So I was so happy that we have such a great song with these two persons working on it that come out so great. So now editing, and then sound, and then music, just more of the polishing side of the music and the song and the musical part in the middle of the film. That's where we at. And again, we're being so lucky of people wanting to help. You know, I think the moment we wrapped up the film and we posted a little video of Emmett, which it was all Brian's idea. Brian's and Bruce said like, hey, we wrapped the last shot, and they thought, let's shoot a thank you video on the bed with Emmett. And they did a really fun little video that we posted on Instagram saying thank you for everybody, to everybody. And after that,
remember the frog thing too.
Yeah, he did a little Kermit the Frog, and it was great. And then we posted, and the reaction was great with that. And then, funny enough, as we were looking for editors, I got contacted by Jesse Averna, which is an editor that have worked on Disney, have worked on the Muppets, have worked on Muppet shows as an editor. And he sent me a message right after we saw it, when we were starting to consider editors. And he sent me a message saying like, hey, by the way, if you are looking for help on editorial, then I can help you because I really like where this project is going. So it was like amazing. And we have that. We have Will, another editor that also wanted to jump in and help on the editorial side of things. So now it's kind of on their hands. They're doing a pass on it, and then we're going to start meeting up and talking about it. But yeah, that's where we are.
I mean, that's awesome. Again, like you're hearing people are just, again, falling in love with the story, falling in love with the characters, and it's becoming your labor of love is becoming the labor of love of all these other people at this point.
Yeah, which I love that. I love that they find that connection. Because I think that's what drive everybody through the process, was that, like, hey, we like this little story and they wanted to tell it. And a lot of people are because of the connection with the Muppets and puppets.
Absolutely. And certainly, like, again, in this time period that we're going through, like there's a little bit of joy from characters like that people need in their life, which is
and again, it really, the film, it's kind of a love letter to puppeteering and Muppets and all the amazing Muppeteers that existed and puppeteers that have existed, and then really is a love letter to anybody that have helped create a character, a fictional character. So I think that's where a lot of people found the connection. But obviously, being puppets, it just helps tremendously because, like we were saying before the show, like there's something about knowing that there's somebody under there, but somehow you forget about that person completely. But I feel like instinctively you still know that somebody's under there, and that's why it makes it even more exciting. Like, wow, this person is creating life just by moving his hands, and that's something that I feel you don't necessarily think about, but it's part of this thing. It's part of this feeling.
And certainly like that. And again, the video that you guys posted on Instagram too, and I watched it a couple of times. I showed it to my girlfriend, and just like the little, and you were there on set, so on the video we don't get to see it. You got to see the puppeteers underneath them. But like he's got like these little nuances with his head, just like the tilts and like the way the hair moves on his head, and it's just like
you're going to be surprised in some of the performances in the film, actually, because they are moving. Like, I mean, there's like moments where you're just watching a real person,
Absolutely. It's like those little nuances, like the one thing I've always loved about puppetry and the Muppets, if you watch the movies that they made, and especially again, and yet, like we were talking earlier about the video that Jim and Frank made, like in the real world with Kermit and Fozzie. Like there's something interesting. Like in like a puppet show, that's fine, that's one thing. But when you bring them out into the real world and like you actually see like the natural wind like blowing through them, like I just think of like Animal, for example, with really shaggy hair, and you see like
feathers
through there. Yeah, because it's like that, like you said, the feathers, and there's just something natural about it, and that combined with like these little nuances that the puppeteer brings to it, just. It's like this is real. This is.
I was amazed by what they could do. Like it's just, and I knew they can do it. So like, but the eyes don't move, right? It's just the mouth. And honestly, his mouth was not like a Kermit, like a sock mouth. It was limited. It's harder. It was a solid piece, so it's just open close, and there's not as much flexibility to it. But just like a little bit of opening on the mouth and a little bit of like, it just he added so much. The crazy thing about that little video that we put on Instagram with Brian and Bruce, Brian was manipulating body and Bruce was manipulating the arms from outside the bed. And the amazing thing is like they did 2 takes, and this is just improvising basically. And the way the arms move, that's the thing that it kind of blows my mind, is that Brian is improvising what the puppet is saying, what Emmett is saying. Bruce is somehow matching spot on the hand moves as Brian is talking.
Perfect harmony.
So that's amazing to me. They didn't do those lines. They didn't have conversations about those lines like in the film. They did talk about each beat of the film and what we can do here, what kind of gesture we can do there. But on those moments, it's just improvise, and they still are able to move the hands exactly. Almost like they can read each other's minds, or they can know where. Like I'm assuming Bruce is hearing what Brian is saying, and he's thinking, "Oh, I know where he's going with this." and he's kind of preparing for some hand gesture that could work for the next thing he's going to say, you know.
Yeah.
Which to me is kind of amazing. You just watch it and you go like, how is this even possible?
It's an incredible art form.
Yeah.
True. So once editing is all done, where is it being shot to studios, Netflix, Disney?
I mean, it's a short film, so it really like it was always just meant to be just a nice film to enjoy, right? And I think ideally I think the plan is to put it through festivals.
Absolutely, that's what I was gonna say for like Oscar when that happens again.
Yeah, see some kind of reactions from people and send it to festivals, and then from there, whatever happened, you know. I mean, if he's putting it online for everybody to watch eventually, or maybe like maybe somebody will be interested on putting it on some kind of platform. Yeah, we're open to that. But now it's more about like finishing it and then more festival round.
Yeah. Absolutely. And again, certainly just knowing what the story is and seeing what we've seen so far, like this is one of those short films like I could totally see as like an Oscar nominated, you know, short film.
Oh, that would be amazing. I mean, I'm an Academy member.
Yeah.
So I judge a lot of the films, and there's always incredible films there. So it's hard. It's very hard. But yeah, I mean, to me, as long as people can relate to it and connect to it, and I think that will be the main thing. And I do feel that they will, especially, I mean, I hope, because in the beginning, I always was a little afraid of like, I might, you know, it's very much about a puppeteer and his puppet. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not a puppeteer, but I know that, but I'm an animator. So there's a clear connection there that have the same sensibility. And I think that now seeing everything, the footage and everything, I do feel like when puppeteers watch it, they are gonna, you know, I feel like they will like the film, you know. So
yeah, absolutely. Now, I mean, without giving anything too much away, is there a possibility that we may see Emmett again down the line? Do you have other ideas for Emmett?
I mean, you never know. I think the film have a very, it have definitely a beginning and an end, you know, to it. So, but you never know, you know. I think it could be something that evolves into something else, or yeah. I mean, you can never say no. But the film is definitely self-contained, you know. It's its own thing. It's not created with the intention of like, oh, there could be more things after this.
Got it.
I thought there could be more things before than when the film happens than after, but you never know, you know. It's always keep it open.
Like I said, you got this adorable little character that, I mean, people are definitely connecting with, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, people may be more clamoring, we want more Emmett, and I mean, you've got the puppet, so why not, right?
Yeah, it's there.
Why
and you have Brian there, so yeah.
And now we're just getting close to the end here. So outside of Frank and Emmett, like you said, animation wise, I assume at DreamWorks, I mean, like Trolls World Tour, you guys like really knocked it out of the park. I mean, you guys were the first movie that went, you know, we're streaming with all this, and I mean, I guess it's probably one of the highest grossing movies of the year, right? Something like that. Like they're getting really buzz about money wise.
Yeah, I mean, those numbers are always hard to tell, right? Because the comparison is very different now, right? Between theaters and now it's all digital, so those numbers are never easy to track. But it did well, you know. The truth is, like, we were not hoping to release the movie. I mean, obviously, the intention was to release in theaters, and we made the movie to release in theaters. But I think Universal have a really good thought there, and it's like, hey, let's make this a movie that everybody can enjoy, and they released it as a rent. And I know that probably some parents were pretty frustrated by how many times they have to watch the movie. but you know, I think yes, it did really well, which it made the whole crew happy, because we obviously spent so much effort and just work on making this film. So we wanted people to enjoy it and to appreciate it and to have fun as they watch it, and it seems like they did. So that's a success for us, you know.
I mean, as a filmmaker, do you feel that, and again, after the success of Trolls, and I mean several films that follow Trolls, do you think that this is the way of the future? Is this home market, or do you think we'll see? Because I mean, theaters around the world are struggling.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. Like, I mean, I think you know, a lot of people really enjoy going to a theater, and it's true that it's a very different experience. I think things will change. I feel like the theaters will always be there. When this gets better, the theaters will always be there, and people will want to go there and experience it at the theater. But I think these have made an obvious case for you know, watching from home when you don't have any possibilities is actually can be really enjoyable, and some people enjoy it more than watching from the theaters. But the truth is, there's a certain amount of sadness that comes with it, because we make these movies to be enjoyed on the big screen, and everything, you know, everything is catered for that big screen. You know, I do feel that it opens possibilities, like you're saying, to like I mean, like Netflix and a lot of other places are doing. It's just they can do more things, you know, they can explore more, because when we're releasing a movie on a theater, it's supposed to be always like a big blockbuster and everybody have to like it, you know, and there's like a lot of, it costs a lot of money to do that process, so they have to be very careful that everybody's going to like it. And so I feel like maybe sometimes we don't touch subjects that are a little more different, you know. I think they feel like a little bit more of a box. But what I do feel like with this digital content is like, because it doesn't have to be for absolutely everybody, and maybe it can made with not as much money, then it opens the box a bit more, and you can tell stories that are a little different. So that part of the digital side of things and releasing digitally, I'm excited about, to be able to see things that are exploring other territories and things that from more diverse, you know. So I think that's a good thing about this whole digital aspect of releasing movies.
Yeah, it really is the new frontier, you know, in entertainment. I mean, the only drawback is that there really is so much content, you know, and you can get lost in it, and it's just like the minute you want to watch something new, you know, like I'm gonna binge watch this show, and I mean, during the whole pandemic, everybody was binge watching everything.
Yeah.
But the minute you want to start one thing, another thing's coming out, and it's just like, oh my god.
It could be overwhelming sometimes, right? Like it's like it's like the typical thing. You go into a restaurant and the menu is like 20 pages. It's like I don't. When you go to a restaurant that have 3 plates that are really great, that somehow it's a lot easier to.
Now, DreamWorks wise, are there any new projects that you're working on that you can talk about? I know, are you on the new Boss Baby movie that's coming out?
I was helping on Boss Baby too. Yes, and it's a lot of fun as well. The second one is going to be a lot of fun too. Tom McGrath is the same director from the first movie. They're working on the second one.
Gotcha.
But I'm working on other projects, but not that I can talk about.
Well, we will all definitely stay tuned for that. You know, totally. And again, you know, just as we're wrapping up here on the bottom, it's saying go check out Instagram, FrankEmmettFilm.com, and I'll throw it up here again too. I had it before, but I gave a shout out to Tim Lamb. That's it, Instagram, Timmy Lamb. So go check out that stuff too. And again, once the movie's ready, you guys, it's going to be hitting like you said, you're going to try and get out in their festivals, get it out there in the world. And I assume at some point people will be able to pick it up like on iTunes and all that.
I hope so. Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, it's going to be probably around 11, 12 minutes film, you know, so I know that there are a lot of possibilities for distribution. So let's see what happens after we go through the festival round.
Excellent. No, again, so I know we all wish you like the best of luck with this. I think it's going to be a phenomenal film, and like I said, this was shared out to a lot of like the Muppet sites today, and again, for people who do tune in tonight, you know, thank you for.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you so much for having me, Mike. It was great talking to you, and I was just surprised that you wanted to talk to me, but it's like, hey, this is great, and it's been a great conversation. You know?
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, you have an amazing history with the animation and now this great film. So these are the kind of things that we like, and then certainly, you know, the advice that you shared about animators. That's one of our things, just to inspire young artists, or artists of all, young and old. Yeah. You know, because you know everybody has something that they want to do, and this is time. Wendy says, "Good luck." Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, our mission here is to really just, you know, spotlight amazing artists like yourself and the good work that you people do, and get other people to do that as well. So again, Carlos, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, And for everybody watching, we'll be back next week. Next week, we got Ray Felix and Tom Siaka to talk about, ironically enough, their comic book Trumpland right after the election. So we'll see what they'll have to say. So again, we'll see everybody next week here on IncrediChat. Thank you, folks.